Now let's look at PERT, Program Evaluation Review Technique. We'll talk about CPM a little later. But the initial concept that we are going to discuss are common to both PERT and CPM, even though our initial focus is going to be PERT. But what we're going to discuss now first, common to both PERT and CPM. So the questions answered by PERT, okay, when will the entire project be completed? What are the critical activities or the critical path in the project? So those critical activities, if they are delayed, the project will get delayed. What are the non-critical activities and how much slack is there in those activities? And these are the activities that can be delayed without delaying the entire project completion. And for PERT itself, we come up with three time estimates, and that is where the probability will come into picture for PERT. And again, for PERT or CPM, either of them, at any particular date, we can see whether we need to be able to answer whether the project is on schedule or behind schedule or ahead of schedule. The same with respect to budget. Are we within budget, or are we over budget or under budget? Okay. Are there enough resources available to finish the project on time? So these are the questions that need to be answered by both CPM and PERT. But when it is PERT, the emphasis is going to be, or the focus is going to be on probability. Okay, let's look at an example now. This example is from your textbook. Okay, so we have a General Foundry. It's long been trying to avoid the expense of installing air pollution control equipment. So now we have to, the local environmental protection group has recently given the foundry 16 weeks to install. So we have to install this system within 16 weeks. So the first thing is the company, the management will have to identify what are the activities that needs to be completed. And here is that list that has already been developed. So we have A through H activities. So A is build internal components, modify roof and floor, and so on. Okay. And then for each activity, we have an immediate predecessor. So A can begin, no predecessor. So A can begin at the beginning. B also can begin at the very beginning. So there must be at least one activity with no predecessors. If all activities have predecessors, that means that's a logical fallacy. You cannot get started then. Okay. Now C, predecessor is A, so that means C can begin immediately after A is completed. Okay. So D has a predecessor B, and so on. So here there is an activity that has two predecessors. So this means G can begin only after both D and E are completed. Okay. So D and E may not get completed at the same time. So one of the two may get completed a little earlier, the other gets completed a little later. So it is the later completion time that's when this activity can begin. Okay. And we can draw, now at this time, once we have the predecessors, then we can lay out the activities into a network. And as I described earlier, there are two different conventions that can be followed. Activity on node, which is what we will be using, which is more straightforward and easy to use. Activity on arc, it doesn't give any specific advantage over activity on node, but that is a convention that's used in software packages. And it involves, it is a slightly more complicated convention than AON, and I personally feel it doesn't offer any great benefit for that additional complication. The only difference being the arrows can be drawn, the length of the arrow can represent the activity duration. So there is one small advantage there. So one node represents the start of the project and one node represents the end of the project. And the nodes of each activity again would represent beginning of the in AON network, the beginning of the activity and the end of the activity. So the arcs are used to show predecessors in AON. Okay, so here is the network form of these activities. So we have A through H, okay, and when you lay it out, it's going to look like this. Okay, let's go ahead and take this and see how we can develop the network, and we'll do this in Excel.